Hello, book lovers. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had a wonderful week. I did make some progress on the autumn TBR prompts that we created, so I'll quickly share them with you. This week hasn't been the best in terms of reading updates if I talk about. I rarely got chance to read, but there are a couple of progress that I would like to share with you. So without further ado, let's quickly jump in. The first TBR prompt that I covered was the history mystery prompt, for which I decided to pick The Last Saxon King by Andrew Varga. Now, the blurb of the book does give you enough insights about the story, but I don't think it just does the justice well enough, so I'll just blurb it out to you guys. A historical fantasy book with dual plot lines is set up in around 11th century and the modern day today. The main protagonist, Dan, who is a young boy, is being homeschooled by his father for unknown reasons, and he is bored to his core. One day, when he is out in the city taking a stroll, an unknown visitor actually visits his father at the home, and by the time he comes back, his father is on the brink of death with a sword positioned against his throat. Now everything is tumbling down into a chaos, and as a final goodbye, his father popped out some sort of a monument or a device towards him just before dying. Wonderstruck by why his father wants him to use the device while he's about to die instead of saving him, he does as he is told by his father, and he quickly elopes into a different century. Now guess what? It's the 11th century. Now will Dan be able to survive in this century? And will he be able to fix the time glitch that his father so desperately wanted to do so? Only time will tell. Now, this is a highly audience specific book, not just for the people who actually love historical fiction, but also for the people who actually have a broader mindset or are okay to apply different kind of imaginations and different narratives to a story. For them, this would be a good fit. But for people who really liked the facts to be stated as is and don't like the history stories to be tinkered upon, this might not be the best fit for you. But for people like me who like an imaginative tale at the end of every story, I think this would be a wonderful roller coaster ride in a haunted house. The next prompt that I decided to cover was a book with elements of baking in it, for which I decided to read And Then There Were Crumbs by Eva Calder. This is a murder mystery kind of a book series, and it is the first book in the cookie mystery series. I can't really sum up how warm, cozy, and sweet this book actually feels to read, but it's a light murder mystery revolving around a bakery, which is even better. And around this weather that we are currently having, it is almost raining every day over here. And while reading this book, you will simply feel like eating something warm because of the weather and about the book as well. Talking more about the book rather than the food now, it revolves mainly around Kate, who is the main protagonist in this book. She's living her sweet little life in Manhattan when suddenly one day she loses her job, her fiance, and even her apartment. Now, eager for a fresh start from the life that's sucking right now, she desperately wants to move out of the city. So she decides to move to a smaller town in Florida, which is Coral Cay. And here she gets a new job at a bakery called the Cookie House. But the very next day, there's a murder, a stalker stalking her around the city, and a very cute dog who's friendly to everybody but not owned by anybody. And now the final prompt that I covered was a book with trees in the cover for it, for which I was reading Awaken by Laura Wagner. But sadly, I've not been able to complete it yet, so I'll not be able to give you my reviews on it. But I'm almost done. Hopefully, I'll get through it by today or this weekend that we have finally. And apart from that, here are the updates that I have done on the autumn TBR prompt that we created and what I've covered so far for you. Now, apart from these books, I read a couple of ARCs as well, one of which was The Gifts by Liz Heather. It's a women's fiction book set up in 1840s, which is basically narrated to you by multiple point of views, which makes it all the more interesting. Now, it is basically showing you the timelines around when women were not really treated equal to men, and they had to face a lot of social injustices, be it doing simple things like educating themselves, doing a business of their own, or the simplest of things like going out on your own. Now, you're not wrong in wondering why I'm so excited just for a women's fiction book. Let me tell you, if in this women's fiction or more of a historical fiction book, you add a sprinkle of fantasy and an element of magical realism in it, tell me it's not something interesting for you. It definitely becomes the best cosmopolitan cocktail to have it in one gulp. Now, because there are too many characters in this book, it will become a mumble jumble for you if you're not paying attention. Hence, I would recommend pairing up this book with an audio format or directly reading an audiobook for this particular one, because then you'll be able to identify and distinguish different characters and understand why they are popping up in that particular sequence or order. And the final book that I read was The House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. Now, I have tried this author previously as well. I read The Year of the Witching last year by the same author and absolutely loved it. I, in fact, annotated the book to a largest extent. This was my first annotated book as well. So, I was definitely hoping to enjoy this one too. Now, this particular house mentioned in the book is actually set up in a very high class society kind of a place, and then there is a opening for a blood maid possession. Now, the main protagonist of this book, Marion, has almost spent most of her life living in the slums and working as a maid. Now, Marion is actually looking for an opportunity to escape out of the lousy household that she's working in, and this bloodmaid position just seems to be the best opportunity for her. But as soon as she joins the House of Hunger, she is basically discovering a lot of secrets and that the outsiders basically don't know about, and there are hidden dangers that come along with this knowledge that she's having. So if you're basically looking for any kind of gothic tales that also employ vampires in it, please go for it. And now I just thought I'll quickly share my September reading wrap total updates. I think we have covered up some pretty good genres and number of books as well, from mythology, middle grade, fantasy, some cute and cozy mysteries, and even some gothic tales like We Have Always Lived in the Castle as well. So I think that was a pretty brief sum up of my 14 books that I read this month. Also, I have completed the Goodreads annual reading challenge, for which I set up around 75 books to be completed in this year, and I have read 76 so far. So I'll just quickly link down all the details in the description for you guys to check all the reviews together in a single place. And apart from that, let's see how many more can we cover before the year ends. Let me know in the comments down below, what are your plans for this weekend? Are you planning to do something exciting, reading books, going out, or whatsoever? And I'll see you in my next video next month with some new bookish updates and a new challenge for all you guys for the spooky season, because we love it so much. And I'll link down all my details around my Insta handle and the blog details that I mentioned for you in the description box. Until then, may your coffees be strong and your TBS be long. Signing off, Pro Caffeinate with Books. Goodbye.